blessing us, and we just ask for your guidance as we conduct the business of the Washington County citizens. And tonight, Lord, we ask for special prayers for all of our law enforcement officers. We pray for their safety, and we pray that you guide them and allow them to do their jobs. And Lord, we pray all this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ.
Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, J.P. Johnson. All right, we got a motion to adopt the agenda. Any corrections, changes? Been moved, properly second. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. The agenda has been adopted. Preliminary motions.
I move that we suspend the rules and read ordinances by title only.
All right, J.P. Madison has asked that we suspend the rules to read ordinances and resolutions by title only. It's been seconded by J.P. Madison. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right, that is passed. At this time, we invite our citizens of the county to come forward and visit with us. Anything they would like to share, concerns, notes of praises that you would like to share, anything you have. We have 15 minutes allocated for that. We just ask that you come forward, state your name and where you're from. Any public citizen comments? All right. All right, we'll go ahead and move to the approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I've read the minutes and I would move their approval, but I do have a little comment. Generally, it seems like when there's a vote, within the comments it will say the motion passed or the motion failed, and that seemed to sometimes say that in these minutes and sometimes say nothing, but nevertheless, they're worth approving. So I make that motion.
Second.
So the motion to approve the minutes has been approved. A motion made by J.P. Madison, seconded by J.P. Madison. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion passes. All right, judge's report. First, I'd like to thank J.P. Deakins is not here today. He had a family emergency, had to roll out of town pretty quickly, and so and he asked as well that you keep him in thoughts and prayers. That's why he's not here, but I also want to thank him for leading the meeting last month. And so my appreciation, thanking him for that, and again, keep his family in your thoughts. Dr. Augustine also extends his appreciation and thanks for your participation, elected officials, and many JPs who came out and supported the annual Easter feed last month. Well attended. I think it was close to 5,000+ that were fed, and so again, that's all across the county. And that was a 23rd year that they've been doing that. So again, he sends his appreciation and thanks. As J.P. Johnson mentioned, this week is National Police Week, and so again, hats off to our sheriff and his team and all our law enforcement across the county, our law enforcement across the country. We appreciate them for their serving and protecting all of us. And so again, in observation of National Police Week, we want to again salute and say thank you. Also, this week is also National Prevention Week for substance abuse as well as mental health. And so for our medical providers and mental health providers across the country, they're raising awareness to prevent those who are using and abusing substances, as well as really trying to drive positive mental attitudes and working with those who have mental health issues in our community. So again, this is National Prevention Week, and so we are cognizant and reminded that we have care providers out there in the medical community and the mental health community. We want to keep them in our support, and appreciate them for the work they do. In your package, you should have the county disposal report. Our roads department has been feverishly working on Brush Creek. It's in its final stages of completion. We are targeting July 4th, so before the holidays. Won't be able to get the Memorial weekend, but definitely by the 4th of July weekend to have Brush Creek reopen. Now, if you guys remember, Brush Creek was one of the 87 plus roads and bridges that were hampered by our 2017 floods here in the county, and this is the last one to be repaired. And it was the obviously most significantly damaged, and so anyway, the work is nearly complete, and so we're looking at July 4th to have that done. I'd like to tip our hats off to our road crew and bridge crew as they have been managing a lot of potholes. A lot of flooding and watering has been happening. If you guys noticed, we're expecting some more, and so they've been out there fiercely working on getting our potholes taken care of, as well as working out on the South Campus. We're getting some roads built out there. They started our chip and seal program this week, and so again, that's a lot of projects that's going to be going on across the county, as well as doing some reviews of bus routes so we can start prioritizing them to get those taken care of. So a lot of work going on across the county in our roads and bridges, and making sure our infrastructure is sustained across the county. And so again, hats off to our roads and bridge crews. The grants team today received a $67,000 grant, unpaid roads. So that is now taking our total to a little more than $900,000 in grants from our grants team. And so again, hats off to them. And we probably have $500,000 in grants that's impending. So they're really working hard and pushing to get those grants into the county, which reduces our burden and tax, obviously, obligations. So environmental, today we had our Washington County spring cleanup. If you remember, in April we had our first spring cleanup, which was unheard of. Last year we collected about 42 tons of waste. Last April, and this past April when we had our spring cleanup, we collected 92 tons of waste and on one day. Today was the spring cleanup with Boston Mountain Solid Waste as well as Waste Management from 8 to 3. And if you missed it, guess what? You have tomorrow. Tomorrow between 8 and 3, again, you get a chance to bring some of your waste to there. So we'll see what that kind of, but it's obviously been a tremendous piece with all the water and floods. I guess people have a lot to clean out, and so we'll have those numbers for you after tomorrow. Juvenile Detention Center, they've been unusually busy. In fact, they were at capacity probably 2 weeks ago, and we had to send some juvenile youth up to Benton County because we were out of beds. And so it's been pretty busy for those guys over there, but the team continues to just make things happen, and they run short staff a lot of the times, and so those guys are running 24/7 to make sure that those youth who are in there are taken care of, and thanks to our partners in Benton County to obviously share some bed space when we needed that. This Saturday, they'll be hosting a fishing derby, and many of you guys know that they do an annual fishing derby out there to work with the young people. So again, if your schedule allows, from 9 to about noon Saturday out there at the South Campus, the Juvenile Detention Center will be working with the Outdoor Adventures Group to host their fishing derby, working with young kids and seeing them catch. They'll be stocking the pond tomorrow. I can't remember how many pounds of catfish and it will be dumped in there, but they dump a lot of fish in there. So there's not a kid who will leave there not catching a fish. Every kid will catch something, or 2 or 3. And they're big. They're not little bitty minnows. I mean, they're pretty big. Archives, plans are underway for us. We're working with U of A, Scott Davis, as well as our own director, Tony Wapple, doing an oral history project on Washington County, the history of Washington County. And so in that project, there'll be a lot of interviews with people long gone but long-term serving secretaries, and we got probably 4 living county judges, and oh boy, or if the treasurer's office. Some of these guys have been around, so they're going to be interviewing a lot of those people who've been around and then doing a little writing, but it's going to be the oral history of Washington County that we're looking at December to have that all completed. So that should be a pretty good project to talk about what's going on and what's been happening here in Washington County. Building and grounds have been all across the county, improving building and maintenance, curb appeal, but really feverishly working on the Crisis Stabilization Unit, and that leads to the Northwest Arkansas Crisis Stabilization Unit. The progress continues. The 16 beds. The construction of it is, man, it's unbelievable how they have transformed this place. The federal group came in last month to do a walkthrough accreditation piece, and then we'll have the state come through in the 1st of June to again say, yes, we bless it and you guys are good to open. Our grand opening, our ribbon cutting, if you will be June 14th. That's a Friday from 10 to 11. That's the governor coming down to help cut the ribbon, as well as Ozark Guidance, who is our medical provider, who will be providing all our mental health work, as well as Washington County, in partnership with the other 3 counties. So that should be a good opportunity, and really, obviously, this is something that you guys help drive, and so obviously, if you guys are available to be there 10 to 11 on June 14th, we'll have the ribbon cutting, and then we'll do a walkthrough of the facility. So that's there. Crisis intervention, again, we talk about our law enforcement. This whole crisis stabilization unit was all built around law enforcement and giving them another tool in their belt as they are looking to pull people away from the jail, and these are people with mental issues, and so giving them an opportunity to go into get some help and get some long-term care. And so we'll have another crisis intervention training. We're probably knocking on 125, 130 plus people who've already gone, law enforcement officers across the region who's gone through the training. We'll have another training May 22nd in Rogers. So again, this will be some of those other law enforcement officers who haven't gone through the training to go through that particular training. So clearly, by the time the ribbon cutting happens, we'll have law enforcement officers across 4 counties ready to go, ready to really use that as an opportunity. And we think we'll fill up the crisis stabilization relatively quick. Anyway, so again, June 14th, if you would lock that into your calendar, and we'll get some invites and all to you guys, but I just want to give you guys that as a radar. Finally, I have a motion, or I need approval for a Board of Equalization, appointment of Crystal McNaughton to go on the board. One of our board members is coming off, just getting up in age and not able to continue to serve, and so I would need approval of adding that person. Board of Equalization. Board of Equalization. So I got a.
When people have problems with their property, they come in and they look at it, and then they make a decision.
That's correct.
So they really work for the schools and help the schools because of the money that they help put back into the community. All right. Well, not in the community, in the school districts.
And that's right. That's after the assessor goes through and does assessment on people's properties. If there's some issue or discrepancy, they'll try to work that out with the assessor's office, and if it does not get settled there, and then that's when they have the appeal to the Board of Equalization. And we have this board that's members of all different areas who are on that board to kind of walk through and listen to the appeal, listen to the assessor's office, and listen to the property owner, and then make a call on that particular piece. So that's what that Board of Equalization piece is. So anyway, got a motion to approve Crystal McNaughton, and a second by J.P. Was that Lemming?
No.
J.P. Harbison. All right, a motion by J.P. Harbison, second by J.P. Aki. You got a question?
Yeah, can we know a little bit more about Crystal?
Yes, she's a realtor, executive broker, and has been so for a number of years. Worked with the McNaughton Realty Group, which is one of the larger ones in the area. So. Got motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Those approved. Those are opposed. All right, that approves. That passes. New business. We got Johnson Controls financing ordinance. Well, we can't do an ordinance. We need to have. Well, the county selected the financial institution. I think at the. I can't remember what meeting was that. The.
No, we did. They didn't.
Well, but they pushed it to come to the Quorum Court. What was the, was that finance and budget? Finance and budget, the May 7th, you guys look to say, yes, let's pass that on to the Quorum Court for an ordinance, except for the bond council there needs to be a public notice before there is a passage of the ordinance. So tomorrow, I would look to get a notice for the public hearing and then call a special meeting on the 28th of May, and then we'll have 30 days from that, which is June 28th, to sign off and close on the bond, or close on the financing. So the bank needs to have, we need to make sure that we have a public notice, and that's 10 days. So 10 days from the public notice will be February would be May 28th, and then 30 days thereafter would be June 28th. So that is what we're needing to look at and do. JP Madison.
So I think we may have a committee meeting on the 27th. Would it be possible to do it that day so we don't have to incur the cost of an additional meeting?
Yeah, we looked at that. I think that's Memorial.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
are we
what-
moving committees to the 28th?
Well, what is, and I don't have the
That is
calendar
the
in front of me.
27th.
So will we end up moving, what was the committee meeting, JP Madison, what shows up?
Oh, it would be June 3rd.
Oh, okay, so it moved it to June 3rd, and if we push it to the following week, then that cuts into the 30-day.
Okay, I was just trying to figure out a
yeah.
way to do it
We-
on a meeting.
We
Okay.
we did, we tried to do that. All right. JP Bowman.
Yeah, thank you. Judge, you know, I thought these guys, Johnson Controls, did a phenomenal job in the presentation. I was really impressed with the potential savings. And the more I've thought about it, the more concerned I've got about it. First off, I think doesn't the state require us to have multiple bids on a deal like that?
No, it's because the state had already done that, and that's why they became one of the vendors for the state.
Okay. Well, my second issue about it was that they're projecting a 4% increase every year for 20 years on all utilities. And personally, I can't imagine utilities going up by 80% in a period of 20 years. So I think that's a factor there that we need to look at. And we don't have any idea about who the contractors are. And I feel like at this point that they indicated a 19% savings from the solar panels on our electrical bill. And in my opinion, if we looked at going ahead and focusing on doing a solar panel installation ourselves, that would mitigate the issues with management fees and projections here about potential cost increase, where we get local bidders, local contractors to bid on those things. And as far as the other things they recommended, like changing out of units and toilets and so forth and so on, are things that we could easily accommodate ourselves as needed. So I'm going to be saying, hey, let's slow down on this thing and get some more details before we pass this thing.
Got you.
Okay?
Any other comments? JP Duncan.
Use this one.
Thanks.
There you go.
Technical difficulties here. I don't know that necessarily now is the right time to talk about it since we don't have an ordinance to vote on, but there was 15% savings on water, 8% savings on gas, and we would also have a free fire alarm system installed across the county as a result of acquiring the financing and having Johnson Controls. So I love the solar panels thing. I don't think that's it. I think it's a whole package deal, and that's why, hey, let's hammer down on the gas. Let's move forward. But I'll say that again at the meeting when we can actually vote on the ordinance. So let's move forward.
Okay. JP Johnson and then JP Harbison.
Yeah, I was sitting there in disbelief. We can contract this ourselves, but we can't guarantee ourselves a single thing.
That's correct.
If these people are required by law to guarantee the results, and we don't accept it, that is unacceptable to me. Those people are going to subcontract that work to people in Northwest Arkansas and people in Arkansas to do the work. But nobody, no other contractor is going to come and guarantee the results. And if any of us could predict what rates were going to increase in the next 20 years, we wouldn't be sitting here tonight. So I'm all for the deal we got.
Thank you, JP Johnson. JP Harbison.
I'm concerned about the 20-year loan at 3 or 3.1%. And the 15 years that everything's covered by warranty. So we've got a 5-year gap in there where things are not covered by warranty, like air conditioners and those kinds of things. And I'm very, very concerned about that. Unless we have an extended warranty for that next 5 years, I'll be voting against this, because that is a lot of money for a long time for 5 years not to be covered by warranty. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. All right. There's no ordinance, so we'll have that notice go out, and then we'll have the ordinance at that meeting. So, item 9, emergency ordinance ratifying the conditional use permit approved by our Planning and Zoning Board. J.P. Duncan, will you introduce that ordinance?
Yes. So I've actually been out to the site, and I don't know if it's proper to open with a motion, so I move.
Oh, you ask him to read it. Ask him to read it. J.P., go ahead, County Attorney.
It's an emergency ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit approved by the Planning and Zoning Board for the Big Red Barn.
Thank you, Mr. Lister. So I've actually been out to the site and toured the property, and actually I passed it on my way to church every Sunday. So it's a beautiful barn with area around it, and anyways, it's out in the county. So they essentially are wanting to host weddings out here. So it'll be an event venue. So pretty simple. If you've all been to like Pratt Place Barn, it's a very similar type setup to that. It's actually larger than Pratt Place. But anyways, so the idea is pretty simple for that. And as I looked at the notes from the Planning and Zoning Board meeting, 6 members voted in favor and 0 members voted against. So I would move that we agree with the Planning Board.
We got a motion to approve, a second by J.P. Madison. Any discussion? Any other discussion? Any public comments? Any public comments? All right, Ms. Patty?
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins.
Yes.
Suki Hires.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Willie Lemming. Ann Harbison. Butch Pond. Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman. Judith Yanez. Lisa Ecke.
All right, so the motion to pass, the conditional use permit for the Red Barn passes. All right, that's item number 10. J.P. Duncan? That's the emergency ordinance ratifying conditional use permit approved by the Planning and Zoning Board.
I ask that the county attorney read this, please.
It's an emergency ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit approved by the Planning and Zoning Board for the Thomas Pearson Wireless Communications Facility.
Another CUP that's pretty straightforward. It's a building. It was passed by all 6 present members of the Planning Board. I haven't actually seen the site personally, but reading through it, there's actually, within the 300-foot radius, there's only like 2 neighbors. So it doesn't seem to be any concern. So I move that we pass.
Been a motion by J.P. Duncan, second by J.P. Jenkins. Any discussion? Any other discussion? Public comments? Any public comments? All right, Ms. Patty?
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins. Suki Hires.
Yes.
Sue Madison. Willie Lemming. Ann Harbison. Butch Pond. Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman. Judith Yanez.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
All right, that conditional use permit for the Thompson Pearson Communication Center passes. Item 11, emergency ordinance ratifying conditional use permit approved by the Planning and Zoning Board. J.P. Lemming.
Mr. Bryan, can you read that, please?
An emergency ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit approved by the Planning and Zoning Board for the Dutch Mills Wireless Communications Facility.
What this will be a new cell phone tower for AT&T. It's a very needed thing in that area because there is no phone service. And it's another thing that'll happen there eventually will be what they call a FirstNet communications, where you could use your cell phone to talk like for 911 systems and emergency systems. That is coming, and it's coming as faster than we think. But it's a very needed tower, and it's going to be right on Highway 59, just a quarter mile. I mean, it's right on the road. And all the neighbors down there don't have a problem with it, but it's very much needed. Move to pass it.
Second.
We got a motion by J.P. Lemming, a second by J.P. Madison. Any discussion? Any discussion? Public comments? Any public comments? All right, Ms. Patty?
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins.
Yes.
Suki Hires.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Willie Lemming. Ann Harbison. Butch Pond. Lance Johnson. Susan Cunningham. Harvey Bowman. Judith Yanez. Lisa Ecke.
All right, the conditional use permit for the Dutch Mills Communications Facility has been approved. Item 12, emergency ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit approved by the Planning and Zoning Board, J.P. Harbison.
Okay. But I'm not on page 12.
You find it?
Here it is. Okay. Brian,
An emergency ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit approved by the Planning and Zoning Board for the Reese Residential.
hey, this is on a road that goes off from Devil's Den. It's a very rural area, and so they want to add another residence to this area. I make a motion that we approve emergency ordinance ratifying this permit.
Second.
A motion by J.P. Harbison, seconded by J.P. Pond. Any discussion? Any discussion? Public comments? Any public comments? Ms. Patty?
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins. Suki Hires. Sue Madison. Willie Lemming. Ann Harbison. Butch Pond. Lance Johnson. Susan Cunningham. Harvey Bowman. Judith Yanez. Lisa Ecke.
All right, the conditional use permit for the Reese Residential has passed. Item 13, ordinance changing the title of computer software design technician to desktop support technician for the IT budget. J.P. Harbison.
Okay, I'm going to go on and move passage of this ordinance. We're changing the name. It's still a grade 18, both positions grade 18, so there will not be any money, additional money needed for this. So I recommend that we pass this.
Second.
Go ahead, read the title.
An ordinance changing the title of computer software design technician to desktop support technician in the information technology budget for 2019.
I move passage of this ordinance.
All right, got a motion by J.P. Harbison. Second by J.P. Duncan. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any public comments? Public comments. Ms. Patty?
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Eva Madison. Andrea Jenkins. Suki Hires. Sue Madison. Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson. Susan Cunningham. Harvey Bowman. Judith Yanez. Lisa Ecke.
Okay, that ordinance passes. The changing of the title. Item 14, ordinance changing the title heavy equipment operator to assistant manager, J.P. Harbison.
All right, Mr. Lester, please read this ordinance by title only.
An ordinance changing the title of heavy equipment operator to assistant office manager in the roads department budget for 2019.
Actually, this saves a little bit of money because it goes from grade 11 to grade 10. I move passage of this ordinance.
Motion by J.P. Harbison, second by J.P. Ecke. Any discussion? Any discussion? Public comments? Public comments? Ms. Patty? Oh.
Sarah Moore, Fayetteville resident. Sarah Moore, Fayetteville resident. I just had a question. I see the cost savings you said because of the grade level change, but sometimes an inside internal person that works in an office versus an external, is that going to be a problem with the operations of how they cover the highway department? I just wondered. Is that a concern at all about having enough manpower that actually is outside versus inside?
No.
I'm sure that
Office assistant?
It's something that we always look at, but
Okay.
that's a heavy equipment operator that we often run a
You don't
lot of
usually-
openings.
Okay.
We have a lot of openings for.
Okay.
And so we're just converting one of the openings into an office person.
Okay, just knowing that roads are such a big topic in
Absolutely.
Arkansas,
Oh.
obviously, given the state
they're a
session.
big concern
I just
here.
was, concerned that considering all the potholes folks talk about and stuff like that, I didn't
Sure.
want to lose manpower out on the roadways potentially versus having them in doing office work, so,
Sure.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Any other public comments? All right, Ms. Patty, roll.
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins.
Yes.
Suki Hires.
Yes.
Sue Madison. Willie Lemming. Ann Harbison. Butch Pond. Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Judith Yanez.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Okay, that ordinance changing the title, heavy equipment operator to assistant passes. Item 15, ordinance reducing $970,000 unappropriated reserves. The road department, J.P. Harbison.
Mr. Lester, would you please read the ordinance, please?
An ordinance reducing $970,000 in the unappropriated reserves of the Road Department Fund and appropriating $970,000 in the Road Department budget for 2019.
We've had some discussion on this of not being paid by FEMA. Some projects haven't been paid for 3 years, and we have two big projects, Nye Creek and Rush Creek, that we have not received that money on, so we need to move some money from the Road Department Reserve. This is not from general fund, from the Road Department Reserve into the Road Department budget. I move that we approve this.
Second.
Motion by J.P. Harbison, second by J.P. Hires. Comments? Any other discussion here? Public comments? Any public comments? All right, Ms. Patty?
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins.
Yes.
Suki Hires.
Yes.
Sue Madison. Willie Lemming. Ann Harbison. Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman. Judith Yanez.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
All right, that ordinance passes to move from one reserves into the road department budget. Item 16, ordinance appropriating $12,000 from unappropriated reserves in Circuit Court Automation Fund, J.P. Harbison.
Mr. Lester, would you please read this ordinance?
An ordinance appropriating $12,000 from unappropriated reserves in the Circuit Court Automation Fund to various items in the Circuit Court Automation budget for 2019.
This is also money that they have in their budget. It just needs to be moved so they can use it. So I move that we approve this ordinance.
Second.
Motion by J.P. Harbison, seconded by J.P. Duncan. Any other discussion? Any discussion? Any public comments? Public comments? God bless you. J.P., Ms. Patty?
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins. Suki Hires.
Yes.
Sue Madison. Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman. Judith Yanez.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
All right, the ordinance appropriating from non-appropriate reserves of the Circuit Court Office passes. Item 17, ordinance appropriating the amount of $13,500 from unappropriated reserves in the Assessors Amendment 79 Fund, J.P. Harbison.
Mr. Lester, would you?
An ordinance appropriating the amount of $13,500 from unappropriated reserves in the Assessors Amendment 79 Fund to the Assessors Amendment 79 budget for 2019.
Move the approval of this ordinance.
Motion by J.P. Harbison, seconded by J.P. Ecke. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any public comments? Any public comments? All right, Ms. Patty?
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins.
Yes.
Suki Hires.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Harvey Bowman,
Yes.
Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
All right, the ordinance moving from the Assessor Amendment Fund passes. Item 18, ordinance appropriating additional revenues, $62,129.84 from the general fund. J.P. Harbison.
Mr. Lester, would you please read this ordinance?
An ordinance appropriating additional revenues of $62,129.84 from the general fund to various line items in the sheriff's budget for 2019.
All right, this is money that's been paid to the sheriff's department for various activities like university functions that they do. And this money goes into the general fund, and then it has to be appropriated back to the sheriff's budget. So it's actually his money that we're giving back to him. I move approval of this ordinance.
Motion by J.P. Harbison, second by J.P. Madison. Any discussion? Any discussion? Public comments? Public comments. Ms. Patty?
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins, Suki Hires,
Yes.
Sue Madison, Willie Lemming, Ann Harbison, Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Harvey Bowman, Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
All right, the ordinance appropriating revenues back to the sheriff's budget has been approved. Committee reports. County Services, J.P. Bowman.
Thank you, Judge. We had a meeting, and we had our chief judge, Chief Carl Gales, came and gave us a great report on all the different departments with a lot of really positive input. And we had a discussion about provisions for minimum standards for rental property out in the county, but no action was taken. And by the way, I did find out since then that the county buys about 1,000 smoke detectors every year, and those are distributed by the fire department, and the firemen will even go into the homes and put these smoke detectors up. So that's one of the stands that she had on the list, and so I was very encouraged to learn that. Thank you, Judge.
And your next meeting is when? Sir? Your next meeting is June, what was that?
I don't know what,
June
I can't remember
3rd.
the next one.
Okay.
Yep.
J.P. Harbison, Finance and Budget.
We acted on all of those items. Johnson Controls came and gave an extensive program on the money that they could save the county by reducing water usage, lights, and those things. And I think what most people were impressed with were the solar panels that will generate electricity that SWEPCO will pay us for, and then it reduces our electricity bill. So I think that was the thing that most people were impressed with. So we had a full agenda, and we covered all that tonight. Thank you.
You also had the ankle bracelets, yeah.
We did have an
How did you forget that? That's all you talk about. No. Yeah.
And I thought that he did a good job, and at least it started conversation.
Sure. Okay.
So.
Thank you, J.P. Harbison. And your next meeting is, you know what? That's right, the following week. Yes, right. There you go. That's when it is, right? J.P. Johnson, Jails and Law Enforcement.
Yes, Judge, we canceled the meeting this month because it conflicted the first time ever, I'm told, with the sheriff's fundraising golf tournament event, which raises a lot of money for charities. We will hold our regular meeting in whatever the Monday in June is. So.
All right. And J.P. Pond, Personnel.
Yes, sir. We met May 6th, And we approved a request from the coroner, Roger Morris, to adjust the pay of the office manager position. And we approved a request from you to change the title of the computer software design technician, grade 18, to desktop support technician, grade 18. A lot of title changes here and that sort of thing. And we approved a request from the prosecuting attorney, Matt Durrett, to adjust the pay of the juvenile case coordination position. We approved a request from Circuit Clerk Kyle Sylvester to adjust the pay of the Deputy Circuit Clerk 1 position. And then we approved, which was forwarded on to Finance and Budget, a request from you to change the title of Heavy Equipment Operator, grade 11, to Assistant Office Manager, grade 10. I do want to say I appreciate public comments, people inquisitive about this sort of thing, particularly with the road department. It's a thing that's important that as we grow, our economy stays. As long as we've got good transportation, we can keep our economy going. I would point out that somebody that's a trained, experienced heavy equipment operator would have some knowledge that would help as an assistant office manager. So I totally agree with what we're doing there. And I would like to say that we're, to kind of describe what's going on here with personnel or with the county, we are gradually making changes and upgrades to and I say gradually, to accommodate a very rapidly growing county. These things are necessary, they have to be done. And I'm calling them routine. Anyway, thank you, sir.
Thank you, J.P. Pine. Before we adjourn, I just wanted to say we got Memorial Day coming, so it's just going to keep getting fast. I want to thank all our county employees who are just moving, and I mean, it's unbelievable how fast the county is moving in all the various elected areas. But Memorial Day is coming. You guys will get waylaid by all the shareholders. Walmart shareholders will be here, so the town is really going to be under siege, if you will, which is going to be good. Our Department of Emergency Management team, and we've already declared an emergency, so we'll be working with law enforcement people across the area to prepare for shareholders. I want to thank our 4-Hers for bringing goodies in today. J.P. Johnson.
Yes, Judge. Thank you, Judge. Two things. I want to thank Patty and Sidney Reynolds and the IT people. They have worked with myself and my audiologist since January, and I can now hear in this room independent of this fine device we work with. So thank you all. The other thing, I think within 30 days, we are getting proposals on a system to replace this system. And I hope that we'll have a video demonstration within 30 days so we can look at it and make a decision. But I think it's a system that does all the things we've talked about doing that will help us all, I guess.
All right.
Thank all those
Johnson.
folks.
J.P. Ecke.
Yes, and just to postscript on what J.P. Johnson said, Judge Stacy Zimmerman has first dibs on this equipment. She requested that. Just make sure. I just wanted to make sure everybody's, I don't know if you've received an email. The Association of Counties is having their annual meeting in Hot Springs, August 21st, I believe, through the 23rd. So if you haven't registered or if you're able to go, I would encourage you all to go. It's a good opportunity to listen and to learn and to engage other JPs in the area. So any other information, I know that Ms. Burnett has some information. Thank you, Judge.
Tanya, you had something? No. Move to adjourn?
Move to adjourn. Second.
County meeting is done. Thank you, guys.